Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to EX3 Snowman Put Together. And I'm just going to review some of the things that we did in this. I'm not going to go over the entire exercise, but I'm just going to review it so that you remember how to do it and you'll be able to do it on your own. Opening up this file, remember you could save it with your name, but the first thing we see is a snowman, and snowman is on its own layer, and there's also snow that's on its own layer in the background. And this thing is a symbol. If you're not sure if it's a symbol or not, check out the properties. And if you're not seeing the symbol properties, just click on it one more time. Don't double click. And you can see that it's a movie clip. And the symbol name is Snowman. If you go in the library, you can see there's Snowman. Okay. Now it does not have an instance name, and it does not need one unless we're going to use code that specifically asks the snowman to do something, or if there's elements inside the snowman that we need to get to from outside. But we'll wait and see if we need to do that. But we could always just give it an instance name of snowman. We could do that. That way it's there in case we need it, but we don't necessarily need it at this point. But we do need to go inside the snowman because we're going to actually do all of the clicking and making the snowman put together inside the snowman symbol. So we're going to double click. Nothing's going to happen out here on the stage. I'm going to double click. And all these elements are on their own layers, which is very helpful because it's easier to identify them and select them. We just have to click on a layer just to select something on that layer. And I'm just going to do one of these, so I'm not going to do all of these. But what I'm going to do is just the hat to start, since that's the top layer. And his hat will move from the ground to his head. But before I do that, it's actually going to be a kind of a self-contained movie clip. So I'm going to have to do a two-step process. One, I'm actually going to take this hat and go modify, convert the symbol, and I'm going to make it a graphic symbol because it's just going to be kind of a static symbol. It won't be anything that's moving. And I'm just going to use graphic symbol just so that when I see it in the library, it'll identify that to me. So I'm just going to call it hat. And it's a graphic symbol, and I'll hit OK. So now it's a symbol. Notice with a graphic symbol, you cannot give it an instance name. It's not as powerful as a movie clip, but that's okay. Because we're just going to, the only reason we made it a symbol is so that we can do a tween with it on the actual movie clip symbol that we're going to make. So what I'm going to do is actually convert this to a symbol again, and this will create the embedded symbol. This will create the graphic symbol that's going to be inside of the movie clip symbol. And to do that, I don't have to double click on this or go in any further. I'm still in the snowman movie clip. I'm just going to go modify, convert the symbol to it again while it's selected. And this time I'm going to call it hat moving. And I'll just do an underscore to indicate that it's moving, or I could put it all together. I could use a capital M. I could do that as well. And this time I am going to make it a movie clip because we are going to have to control it and give it an instance name, and it will actually move on its own. So I'm going to hit OK. And now it's actually the movie clip of hat moving. And if I wondered what happened to the original hat, it's actually still inside there. If I double click on it, there it is. You can see there's the graphic. It's actually inside there, and I could select it while I'm on the timeline of hat moving. Remember, when I double click, I go into the timeline of hat moving, but now I'm going to be using the hat graphic symbol. So if I go back to snowman, here's my hat moving symbol, and if I want to give it a name, I'm just going to call it hat MC because we've been naming them with MC because that helps with code hinting. And I don't have to call it hat moving necessarily because there's only going to be one hat. So hat moving is just differentiating itself from the regular hat symbol. But as far as this goes, when we communicate with it, we'll just call it hat. Okay, so we're going to animate this inside the hat moving timeline. So I'm going to double click here. And again, the reason we had this graphic symbol in here is just so we could do a classic tween, because we can't do a classic tween with just regular shapes. And if you try to do it, you'll get those kind of tween 1 and tween 2, and they're kind of hard to keep track of. So you always want to make it a symbol first if you know you're going to do a classic tween, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to make a basic classic tween here of just maybe 2 seconds. So right now, if we're at 15 frames per second, I'm going to go to frame 30 and do an F6. And what I can do now, since this is the way it's going to finish, I'll go back to my first frame and I'll just rotate it a little bit to know that you can change that a little. I'll even make it be kind of like upside down over here. Use the transform tool to do that. After changing that, we can now, this is the way the hat's going to work. It's going to be on the ground, you're going to click on it, and it's going to go back on its head. And again, we want it to start so it's stopped. and then after it goes on its head, we want it to stop too. So we're going to put two stop actions. We already have a keyframe here to put an action on, but we need one down here too. So I'm going to go to frame 30 and do an F6. So I'm going to put a stop action. So I open up my actions palette and just type stop. And remember, it takes the opening and closing parentheses and a semicolon. And then I can copy it. I'll do a Command C and copy it. And I'll go to my first keyframe and then I'll just paste it, and then I'll be done. I'll paste it so I have a stop on both actions. So if I tested this movie, it should just, this hat should just be laying on the ground. I'll do Command Return, I'll test it. And there it is. Nothing's happening. Perfect. That's what I want. Now what we want to do is we actually want to click on this hat and actually make it go up on the head.